Hey, welcome back to the Mobility Project. I want to start today by talking about a common misconception. That is, specifically, muscles do not stretch under tension. What am I talking about? If your muscle is holding you up or is working hard, it won't stretch. You may be able to stretch some of the contractile tissues around it under loading, certainly the connective tissue components, anything that may have some kind of viscoelastic property nature, but in terms of kind of active resetting the actin and myosin overlap, impossible. How do I know? Well, if you just make a bicep, for example, imagine the stretch going on right now. It doesn't work, right? Of course not. I'm flexing in the middle of that. What you have to do is kind of extrapolate that model and think about how silly and asinine it is to bend over and try to stretch a hamstring under load. Specifically, this is a low back stretch, but the hamstring's holding me up. Why would it let go? It's not going to let go. This is one of the problems with something like yoga, for example, and yoga is a fine practice, but a lot of times the musculature is under such work pieces that we're trying to work an end range, kind of do that mapping. One of the reasons that the cues are to kind of contract your quad so much is that we're hoping for this antagonist-agonist relationship inhibition. Specifically, I hope if I flex my quads, my hamstrings release, and the body's just more sophisticated than that. So it's important that what we do is try to think about putting the system in an unloaded position, putting the muscle and the movement in an unloaded position, and then mobilizing there. So having said that, here we go. Tonight I'm going to watch a movie, and I have a little ottoman in my living room, sitting room, and I'm going to use this to prop myself up. So here's today's homework. Yesterday we smashed the crap out of quads. We reefed the back of the hamstrings. We did a little mobility work. Today we're just going to go after kind of a two-way hip. So let's start with the obvious piece as squatting, which is flexion, external rotation. So we're going to just pull out one leg at a time. But this time I'm going to exaggerate by dropping the other foot off the ottoman or the elevated surface, which does a lot of things. You're going to find it's going to open up the hip and the back, but I'm going to start by being in deep flexion. So let's go ahead and start by being in this position for a minute or two. Find those corners, and it may be shin vertical and I push back. I'll find some things. As soon as I'm there, find something that is interesting to me, I can contract, relax in there. You're going to really find this loads up those adductors, kind of the big medial hamstring piece. Then I'll start to go ahead and explore the different directions. So in this first iteration, first piece, let's go ahead and camp out 3 or 4 minutes. And then, and again, the examples could be kind of crazy, right? Still have the foot vertical, looking around to these different corners. Contract, relax, get your brain involved. 5 seconds of peak tension, release. 10 seconds end range. You got to cultivate 2 minutes at least of being end range of these pieces. Then let's go ahead and bias in the extra rotation piece, and this definitely looks like Pigeon Pose, which I don't even know how that translates into Sanskrit, but let's open up the hip first using that load tensioning idea. I want to reach back and try to load the hip first and then fold forward. Back is neutral, don't need to challenge the back. McGill would be happy here. And then I'm going to go ahead and cross over. What's nice about having the other leg off the table or down is it allows me for a much more protected back position. If this tweaks your knee, drop your foot off, just like that. You don't need to stretch those lateral collateral structures. Hanging out, hitting those different positions, and then let's go ahead and collect another 3 or 4 minutes each side. So we're going to look for about 6 or 7 minutes per leg in different positions, cultivating kind of upwards of 15 minutes of this time. Really camp out. This is homework to be done at night before you go to bed or watching the TV where you just have some time. This isn't the kind of 2-minute mobility piece right before I worked out. This is me, end of the day, and I'm going to go ahead and collect some kind of prep work for tomorrow. Good question came up on the MobilityWOD. After a big sit-up test, how do I get turned around and unsmoked? If I'm open in the field or I'm out in the field, I've just done sit-ups, know that I have about 5 minutes recovery before the next running piece. I'm going to squeeze my butt and try to open up the hip as much as I can with just a little contract, relax, a little contract, relax. Just release those hip flexors, add a little hip in, see if you can recover that motion to be able to get your butt back on. If you're short here after doing a bunch of sit-ups, and then stand up, you're going to be short and chronically tight. It's going to inhibit your butt. You're going to run in the broken pose style. We want you to be able to come to full extension. If you can find a place to put your foot up on something and then internally rotate in the back leg, you can also work that hip. But in some way, go ahead and see if between that sit-up, moving into that running portion of your PT test, see if you can open up your hips. All right? We'll see you guys tomorrow.